Hello. Hello. Sorry, my nose is just having a bit of a bleed, so I'm just going to stay on the screen and talk in a minute, but hang on. So yeah, I was like, oh, my nose is a bit stuffy. Stupid hay fever. I shall make sure I blow it before I go on stream. And then it goes, oh, you wanted to bleed. You wanted me to bleed. Bleed. So, apologies. So, what are we playing today? Yes, we are playing C14-Dating. Let me just get the page up. So this one came out a few months ago. It's been on my backlog. It is developed by Winter Wolves, published by Ratalaika Games. Excuse me. Winter Wolves are the ones that did the Vera Blanc games that we love. They also did the Roommate game and Nicole. So it's going to be another one where we get to pick stats for the day. Hi Heather, hi Leaky. I don't know. I'm going to have a look at the description in a minute. Hang on 2 seconds. So it came out on March 31st. Right, so you play as Melissa Flores, a third-year anthropology student participating in a summer archaeological internship. The field school takes place in Belgium, over 5,000 miles away from your native California. You'll be staying in an unfamiliar country for 2 months. It can be nerve-wracking, but you couldn't pass up such a learning opportunity. Maybe you'll dig up some bones or even unearth tools that were manufactured by early humans. You might also forge friendships and find romance during your stay. It does not, however, say what C14 stands for. So yeah, okay. I think I finished bleeding. I'm just going to have a tissue handy just in case. So we're probably not going to do more than one stream on this. Just Carbon 14. Me joking? You know me, I don't joke. C14 is carbon dating. I like that. What do you think I'm joking about? Bleeding? No. My nose decided to start bleeding just as I started the stream. Oh, I am really prepared. Yep. I forgot to switch to the game before I started. Oh, no, I wasn't joking about it. I didn't know. Was I supposed to know? Is that something everyone knows? I know C is carbon. I don't know why C14 is carbon dating. I'm not an archaeologist. There's a reason why we're drawn together here. Okay, all transitions. Let's take things one day at a time. Speed the teensy fast. Beneath the surface, scraping out what's deep inside. Yeah, I did think that was a common knowledge thing. Besides, I was distracted. My hay fever is annoying. Counting rings on trees, possibly? Oh. Carbon 14 is the isotope of carbon used for carbon dating. Yes, but Olkesh, you were at school in France, and France have a good education system. The rest of us were educated in England. Enough said. But now we know the thing. So yeah. With you, I feel like I Well, I mean, considering that the French learn English at such a young age that, you know, it's sort of bilingual. Mini games? Okay. I thought this was going to be like the roommates one. This might be Vera Blake. Like Vera Blake with the mini games, in which case we're totally playing more sessions of this. You know how much I love the mini games. Alternative font. Let's just go with the original. Vera Blanc. Did I say Blake? I'm very tired, just as a prefix for this. I'm very tired, so yeah. This is going to be not a massively long stream, just so you're aware. Hi, Ross. But yes, hi Dan, hi Elkesh, hi Leaky, hi Ross. And anyone else who's here. Yeah, I'm very tired, my brain is broken, and, well, about 5 minutes ago my nose was bleeding. So, you know, we're doing really well, like, functioning as a human being today. So bear with me silly accents, and, yeah. Oh, I don't think that sort of thing exists, Leaky, sadly. So if this one is going to be like Vera Blanc with the mini games, we will play more of it on stream. If it was going to be like the one where you pick the day thing and you have the have to do the skill level up, I don't like those as much. But we really loved the Vera Blanc mini games. So if this is like Vera Blanc, this first stream is basically just going to be the prologue. Is this it? I glanced at the map, which highlighted road names along with a star next to my destination. After comparing, I came to the conclusion this wasn't the place, but I was close. The village, Carine, was clustered by the Meuse River, and I paused to admire the pretty gardens surrounding the houses. To be fair, I'm full after having one tiny sandwich. The side effect of bad brain apparently is loss of appetite, which I need to take advantage of. I also did have a bowl of strawberries, but because I thought I needed some fruit. And strawberries so far don't seem to have an adverse effect on my body, unlike every other fruit in existence. But yeah, anyway. Cake would be nice, but maybe tomorrow, as I'm full now. I was oddly calm, despite being over 5,000 miles from my Californian home. The reality of being in another country had yet to sink in. Up ahead, there was a clearing separated from the road by a fence. On the other side, a few tents were stationed behind a 2-story building. I spotted an open-chained gate with a billboard in front of the driveway. It said, Grotte de Calais. Entrez. This is my withering look, just in case you were. Does someone want to do the no coconut? I should do that. I should have a no coconut button. Okay, so we're in France. Awesome! I'm going to do some terrible French accents. Apologies in advance. That's the place. A familiar figure stood by the entrance. She was currently talking to a middle-aged man, but when she saw me, she gave me a cheerful wave as I ran up to her. Sherry! With one hand on my bag handle, I exchanged a half embrace with my professor. I didn't know you'd already arrived. If you called me, I would have come and picked you up at the train station. You mentioned that the cave wasn't far, so I wanted to soak in the scenery and enjoy the sights. Oh my god, that was terrible, wasn't it, Alkash? It's like we're just basically going out. That's not a thing. I'm glad you made it safely. Was it difficult taking the train? No. Well, I did try to practice my French at the ticket station until the person said that he could speak English. He pointed me in the right direction. At least you'll be able to brush up on your French. You'll find it's not too different from Spanish. You'll catch on quickly. I groaned inwardly. My Spanish wasn't the most fluent, but I mentioned it in my interview when discussing how I would cope with staying in Belgium without knowing French. Ah, Belgium, not France. Okay. Well, it was French, so I was, there were pretty much, it was going to be either France, Belgium, or part of Switzerland. Or anywhere else where they speak French. Some other Netherlands? Now trying to picture a map of French language thingy. Obviously Canada, but that's a different kind of French. Tunisia? I don't actually know where Tunisia is. My geography is getting worse and worse. Anyway. Potentially, nous parlons français aujourd'hui. Ah! Lots of Africa. Fair enough. Oh, that's probably not where... Is that where Tunisia is? I'm just going to Google it because, why not? That's not how you spell Tunisia. That's how you spell Tunisia. Oh, it is in North Africa. Algeria, definitely. Feels like it's somewhere that... But yeah, I know that Tunisia just got red listed, which is annoying. They are not doing so good. Yes, thank you, Dan. I'm not very good with geography. I did just look it up. Their official language is Arabic, but I do know that they speak French there. Well, there is a French Tunisian. Like, part of Tunisia is France. French, even. Anyway. I feel like it will be very hot there, and I would probably melt. Anyway, Belgium. I think I have. I glanced around and turned to Sherry. Where's Paige? Didn't she say she'd be arriving earlier today, or was that tomorrow? I got an email from her yesterday saying there was a family emergency. She won't be able to participate this summer. I failed to hide my disappointment. Paige was the other student from my university who planned to attend this field school. We even worked out trips to do every weekend during our stay. I mustered up a weak smile. It's understandable. Can't be helped if it's family. Then it would be just me. Sherry gestured to the other person present to change the subject. Before I forget, let me introduce you to Professor Augustine Dupont, Chief Archaeologist of Callan Cave. I eagerly extended my arm for a handshake. Everything I heard about Mr. Dupont was from Sherry, and she'd mentioned that he was a revered Belgian archaeologist. Hi, Lady Marguerite. Antique. It's an honour to meet you. I'm Melissa Flores, a junior. I look forward to seeing Sherry's students every summer. It is a pleasure to meet you. Mr. Dupont spoke with a heavy French accent, which apparently I can't do in a slightly lowered tone, so there we go. But I had no trouble comprehending him. Have you gone over everything with Sherry? When the students from Liège arrive tonight, they'll get their first lecture before dinner. Bonjour, Lady Marguerite. What's an oxymoron? I'm not paying attention to what I say. Belgians have their own accents. They do, but maybe he's... Well, I said it was Belgian. Artistic license. You get Joe's semi-French accent thing. Yes, I'll still oh, hang on, did I miss? No, there we are. Yes, I'll still attend the lecture, though. Renowned Belgian. Oh, that was the oxymoron. Hi, that's rude. Don't be cheeky, Dan. If I was going to be submerged in the language, I might as well start by hanging out with the local students. Mr. Dupont eyed my suitcase. It must have been a tiring trip. Come, we will show you around the back. Students will be spending the weekdays here. We reached the clearing and I spotted some tents. Most clustered around the perimeter against the bushes and a few were closer to the building. Feel free to pick one. These are the students who don't own their own tents or air mattresses or couldn't bring them. The chief archaeologist gave a nod and then excused himself. He probably had other matters to attend to before the students arrived. Living in a tent. I mean, it's great for like a weekend, maybe a week, but this is the summer thing with mosquitoes and no air conditioning. Don't think I could do that. Ah, there's a fly. I had the door open earlier, and then I closed it, and now there's a fly. I studied the tents next to the building and thought about my phone, which was still in airplane mode. How's the Wi-Fi here? If you stay in that tent, you might get Wi-Fi. It doesn't extend much here at the back. If you brought a laptop, you can leave it in the laboratory. It's been done before. Everything gets locked up at night though for safekeeping. Fair enough, at least I can keep in touch with my parents. Once you've finished, come to the front and we'll give you a tour. Will I get to see the cave today? Hi! Sorry, that was a really weird hi. I'm not quite sure where the fly's gone. It sort of went down beside my sofa and started buzzing. Which probably means I need to tidy up stuff. Hi, how are you doing? We have story time with Joe today. It's Jim. Okay, you may have to give me a little more context than that, Jim. But hi. I've worked with several Jims before. I also dated a Jim. So maybe I mean I've you know. No, I figured as much. Oh, right. So not that long ago. I am really bad with names, but yes, hello. As I say, I've been working in London for like over 15 years now, so it's Jim. We used to work together. Yeah, definitely needed more context there, so thank you. But yes, how are you doing, Jim? In fact, I've worked with several Jims over the years, but yes. You've literally never met another Jim? Don't worry, this is a habit. This is a habit. Yeah, no, I've worked with several over the years, and yeah, as I said, dated one back at school. But yes, no. Jim, I remember you now, having got the context. Well, yes, exactly. Storytime with Joe always stops to get derailed about something. I would ask how my build is doing, but I feel that's a sore subject, so we'll skip that one. But I really enjoyed the presentation you did for the Symphony London group thing. So, yeah. It's been a while. Yeah. Oh dear. Yes. So to give you context, I do silly voices, read out visual novels, and I call it Storytime with Joe. We do play other games, just today we get Storytime. So, will we get to see the cave today? It's already locked, so you'll have to wait until morning. And the anticipation builds. Tuesday. Next Tuesday. overcooked. Is that what you're going to say, Scruff? Because I am ready. I may have to check it's updated itself and sync to the save files and all that, because I haven't played it in a while. But I haven't forgotten. I mean, I have forgotten what day of the week it is and what date it is. But, you know, I remember. I put it in my calendar that it's Scruff's anniversary stream, so I will remember it when I get to that date in the calendar. Oh, that's cool. I mean... Yeah, I can do that. I don't think I have particularly any plans. So, we can do that. There we go. This, I really don't like the whole tent thing. So why is there a giant bullet? There was already... Oh, I thanked her and started unpacking. There was already a mattress, pillow, and sleeping bag in place. And it only took a few moments to settle in. I would not want to use someone else's pillow and sleeping bag, I have to say. Reverse your sleeping pattern. I need to maybe get up early tomorrow. I'm not looking forward to it. Done. Grabbing a small storage bag, I zipped my tent and hurried over to the front of the building. Anyway, this is the main entrance. This'll take you to the... She opened the door and my eyes widened when I saw display after display. So it was a museum. And a remarkably tiny one. After one loop, I was already back to the entrance. I wanted to examine the displays more, but figured I'd have more free time later. I mean... Yeah, there are other things called bullets, if that's what you meant, Olkesh. But it was rather large for that, compared to like the size of the pillow and stuff. I figured I'd have more free time later, right. Sherry and I ascended the stairs by the entrance. This room, it's more of a multi-purpose room. It can be used for lectures, and it's where findings are cleaned if the weather isn't suitable outside. I cradled the storage bag, wondering how to bring up the question. Fortunately, Sherry noticed. Something important in there? Oh. The extra insulin I won't be using yet. It needs to avoid extreme temperatures. Is there somewhere safe I can store it? So it may be the medication support, like, thermos thingy. In which case now I feel guilty about making a dirty joke about it. But, you know me. Gotta bring down the tone somehow. Oh, of course. Thanks for reminding me. Feel free to use the indoor kitchen since it's restricted to staff members. Augustine has granted you access since he knows you're diabetic. She led me to the back, giving me a chance to store the insulin bottles in the fridge. And to conclude the tour, this is the lab. This is where most of the research takes place. How many students will be here? It varies. There'll be many as 40 or as few as 20 students. Students from Liège are required to devote at least 4 weeks working at an archaeological site, regardless of their major. Therefore, we may get a lot of music and art students too. The other students should be arriving soon. How's the jet lag? Bad so far. A little fatigued, but nothing else. I'm going to be up all night, aren't I? Worst case scenario, I'll give you an extra day to prepare yourself for the dig. You have reviewed the material I've given you, right? Yes, I've looked at it. Is there anything else you'd like to go over? It has been a month since my last lecture. Wow. Lots of questions. So yeah, so this seems to be a bit more like Vera Blanc style rather than I was thinking it was going to end up being like a dating sim with like the roommates one where you had to pick the options and get points. So I feel a lot better about playing this one now. I have to agree with Ima with the points thing. Some of the games aren't as fun. Mind you, Little Lily Princess was awesome, so it does vary on the story. But yes, I also feel incredibly silly that I didn't get the carbon dating pun. But then I didn't actually know what the game was about until I read that description. So I just assumed it was dating sim. Apparently it's about archaeological digs, which is actually much more interesting, and that fly is going to annoy the crap out of me. Hang on, I'm just going to go open the other door so that it can go out at some point, and then I'll be right back. Thanks for stopping by, Jim. Good to reconnect. I hope you are doing well. Maybe I'll see you anon. Yes, so the fly will now go out, hopefully. Or I'll get 15 more come in. You know, mileage may vary, but yeah, this might be about actual carbon dating, which is going to be really cool. And it has mini games, so we're doing Manifold tomorrow. We have a Sunday stream, but I'll probably do, I'm going to be doing AI Somnium Files on Sunday. And then next Tuesday is Overcooked, so I'm not quite sure when I'll be able to get back to this one, but if it's a good story or it's intriguing, then I'll do the rest of it on stream. So I'll take everyone's temperature at the end, see how everyone feels. So inquire about the cave. Can you remind me about the site again? I know it's famous for discovering the remains of a Neanderthal, dating back to 125,000 years ago. Correct. The site has established 2 Neanderthal occupations from different times. This is mainly a Middle Paleolithic site with sediments ranging from 300,000 years old to as recent as 400,000 years. Nice! I can't wait to discover a tooth or something. If you do, it'll likely belong to a cave bear. Cave bear? Are those remains found often? Yes, 99% of all fauna, animal remains collected are cave bear. All I can think of now is the Clan of the Cave Bear books by G&M All, which the first book came out in 1980, and it has some really good depictions of Neanderthal, Paleolithic life and stuff. And the author did a lot of research, including a lot of caves in France and places like that. So this is going to be really cool. I like this sort of thing. Even so, I'm sure that's something not many people can say they dug up. Cave bear. Even so, I'm sure that's something. Not many people can say they dug up cave bear. I read that sentence completely wrong. How long have you been digging here? How long have you been part of the team, even? I started working with Augustine about 10 years ago. We go way back. That's how I established the Carlin Cave internship. Our university has developed a reputation for bringing over exceptional students. Ha! And it's just me this year. I hope I'm able to live up to expectations. I'm sure you'll do fine. Go over itinerary. What's the schedule exactly? How long did the dig go till? It's ongoing until the end of August, and you'll be leaving at the end of next month, was it? Right, on a Saturday. I know only 4 weeks are required for the field school, but I thought I'd learn more if I stayed for 8. Dates aside, breakfast is served at the morning at 7:30. Cave and lab activities go from 8 to noon, and there's an hour for lunch. Activities resume from 1 to 5. Dinner starts at 7. On the weekends, both students and the excavation team leave for home. The cave and museum are locked up during this time. The back of the building will be accessible to you, of course. And if you prefer, you can sleep on the second floor if you don't like the idea of sleeping outside alone. Again, I'm sorry, it's just you. I usually get more students than this. I'll be okay on my own, I promise. and quiet. I'd like to go over the grading system one more time. Did you bring a journal? I sure did. Essentially, I'll be grading you on your performances both in the cave and working at the lab. I'd like you to record your findings and experiences in the journal. I expect it to be turned in every Friday evening, and I'll give it back the following Monday. If you're sick, you're allowed to miss some days. I won't deduct marks for that. However, there is no excuse for playing truant. I mean, if you're living in a tent at the back of the museum, I hardly think you can go play, truant. What's the slang for that? Can't think. Anyway, whatever. Don't forget to take breaks often while you're excavating the cave. There's a risk of getting hypoxia due to less oxygen. I'm not just marking your academics, I'll also be seeing how often you volunteer. Okay, this is sounding more and more like the points-based game, not mini-games. I want mini-games, please. Give me a good, word puzzle where I'm going to guess what someone's thinking, or spot the difference. Play hooky! Thanks, Dan. I was thinking hickey, and I'm like, that's not right. That's when someone leaves a mark on your skin when you're making out. Okay, lots of slang for playing hooky. I meant hooky. So yeah, truant. I was like, yeah, we're hardly going to play hooky if we're literally living behind the museum, but hey. Also, I have never heard of those last two things. Volunteer? Yes, students use the outdoor kitchen and are in charge of preparing the meals along with the cleanup that follows. I don't expect you to volunteer all of the time, since that does cut into your excavation and lab time, but once in a while is ideal. Is Augustine easy to get along with? He seems friendly. He is for the most part, but he's like an overprotective father when it comes to the cave. He's been supervising it for over 2 decades and is the leading expert. It's his baby. One of me made up. I mean, that makes me feel better. I'll be helping you, of course, and as far as I'm concerned, you're my student, not his. Any problems that come up, I'll discuss with you personally. I meekly nodded, although now I was worried about making a mistake. After all, this was new to me. Ah, Neanderthal or Neanderthal. I noticed in all your lectures you use Neanderthal. I've always heard it as Neanderthal. Is that a preference? A preference, and there's no H sound when it's pronounced in French and German. It's just something I picked up when I started working in Europe. However, both are accepted spellings in academic journals. Here, it'll be referred to as Neanderthal. Right, so it is. Okay, that's all. I think I'm good for now. Great. However, if any new questions come up, feel free to ask. We heard activity outside, complete with loud voices and footsteps on the gravel. Sounds like the students from Liège are here. Augustine will start the lecture soon. No chance to unpack or get ready or anything like that? No, all of the students were given instructions on when to arrive. Punctuality is valued greatly here. He'll lecture now and the students will settle in after. Ah, there also isn't a J in Greek, as far as I remember. So I remember trying to write my name in Greek. That doesn't really work. I'll be on my way. Some students stood while others sat on the stone tiles in front of the building. A few leaned against their luggage, but they all formed a semicircle around Augustine. There were about 30 faces, and I wondered how the camping grounds would contain them all. They fell silent when Augustine began to speak. Although I picked up keywords such as archaeologie, grotte, and sediment, most of it was lost on me. He repeated calcaire a lot too, which is calcium, calcite. Obviously, archaeology, cave, and, well, sediment is sediment. I think calcite, calcium. Calcite makes more sense from a rock point of view. However, his gestures were vibrant, and I sensed the passion behind his voice. It got me looking forward to excavating tomorrow. No, we have a schedule, right? Okay. Oh, calcaire! Of course. I've heard calcaire. Never seen it written down. Limestone. Yeah, that makes sense. Because it's calcium-based sedimentary rock. Yeah, I've heard calcaire used before. Is limestone calcite? Or am I just completely making up words as well? Okay, so maybe we have mini games and a schedule? Main menu, save game, load game, gallery. Gallery. Do we have any gallery yet? Shoji, Deandra, Kyla, Hendrik, and Joan. Fair enough. I'm not very good with names. But I think it sounds like calcaire, but it's not. And I don't know where, honestly can't tell whether you're trolling me or not. So, right, what are we doing? Study? Diligence. Browse internet gives stress. We don't want stress. Samuel calcaire. Honestly, I really can't tell whether you're, having me on or not. Alright. Game. Empathy and reduces stress. Oh god. My brain is way too tired. Okay, so diligence and decreases stress. Browsing internet just adds stress. So why would we add stress? Socialize reduces stress? Bollocks, does it? Okay. Right, so... Okay, let's do socialize and... Inquire. Inquire. Play catch. Study. I didn't think this was like the whole thing was, Okay, so... Study. Game. Socialize. I don't know, I'm really just picking stuff here. Honestly, I can't understand why you'd want stress, so we're not going to browse the internet. Okay, inquire. Socialize. Study. Study. Play catch. Socialize. Oh, hello. The weekend. Explore the museum, explore the town. Email. Okay, so... Explore the town. Explore the museum. Dance. Oh, but also email. No, we're avoiding the internet. We're going to dance. Okay. Play. I want a mini game. I don't want any... I want mini games. I was excited about mini games. I don't want to allocate resources. Like Sherry said, there was another lecture in the morning, complete with a whiteboard, and Augustine demonstrating how to use a trowel. It was all in French, and Sherry was kind enough to translate some key phrases or remind me that I covered this with her before the trip. The students were divided, with one half, me included, to head for the cave, while the other group would stay behind for lab work. The walk to the cave was roughly 10 minutes, passing through a narrow path in the sloped woods. The trickier sections had cement stairs installed, along with handles to prevent slipping. When we reached an ordinary-looking shed, Augustine pulled out his keys. I realised this was the cave entrance, or at least the artificial part of it. Maybe there'll be a werewolf. Once you are inside, please spread out so I can explain how to wet screen. He repeated the instructions in French as we filed through one by one. There was a raised counter in the middle with plastic containers suspended on wooden supports. So this is where the wet screening takes place. Looks like it can only fit 2 people at a time. How often it'll be used? Augustine demonstrated by lowering an empty metal sieve into a plastic container. Grabbing a hose, he mimed washing the screen and rooting through pretend dirt. As much as I tried to pay attention, the language barrier tested my focus, and my eyes started to wander. Check out the posters, look down. Stay focused. I did come here to learn, didn't I? French or not, I should show him serious about this. He's mentioning photographs a lot. Is someone coming to take pictures? Oh, thank you for the follow. I'm gonna go with Faith. So I don't butcher your name, but yes. Yes, me and my friend were talking about that. It's like when you Google one of them and you get a whole bunch of like people who can't spell aromatic for like perfume shops and stuff. But yes, that is really cool, Faith. Thank you. Everyone started to line up after Augustine gestured to each item, which ranged from stacks of buckets to plastic containers full of trowels and brushes. I followed and carried everything in my own buckets, including a sheet of paper encased in a plastic bag. The real entrance to the cave opened, leading to a narrow industrial catwalk suspended over the abyss. Oh no, we've got another abyss. Hopefully there's no brains in this one. Once I walked through, the temperature dropped to a cool chill, and I zipped up my hoodie. Augustine directed students to various locations, while Cherie carefully slipped by, and I followed. The cave opened up further. Yep, that one is great. Yeah, there are some hilarious tweets when people have either used the wrong homonyms or just the wrong spelling or the wrong word entirely. So yeah, those are amusing. You missed the emote? What emote? But it was a little tired mouse. It's Oz's little tired mouse. It's a cute emote. Tired mouse is never a mistake. The cave opened up further in with numerous stalactites and stalagmites. And the way you know the difference is the stalactites hold on tight, and the stalagmites might just reach the ceiling at some point. Everywhere. The catwalk railing disappeared where the ladders connected, or where it branched off into other segments of the cave. Cherie, where will I dig? Cherie leaned over the railing and pointed to one of the deeper parts. You'll be digging here. It's a 125,000-year-old lair, the very same one where they discovered the Neanderthal mandible. Mandible, I can't say words today. What? I'll be digging in such an important place already? Despite my nerves, I felt giddy inside. Cherie climbed down the ladder and I trailed behind her. At the bottom of the ladder was another catwalk, positioned exactly in the middle. Now that my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I noticed there were strings and cords hung everywhere in a specific pattern with notes nailed into the soil. Cherie brought me to the end of the catwalk, where there was yet another ladder, but this time much shorter. I mean, that also works. But I always say stalactites, so I would get those confused. I liked the whole holding on tight and might just reach. Because that stuck in my head. And I learnt that about 20 years ago, so... No, more than 20 years ago. Oh my god, I've just completely lost track of time. More than 20 years ago. Like, 30, no. 25 years ago. I learnt that. Okay, now I'm showing my age. I'm going to shush now. You'll be digging on the right side here. Here was a rather cosy-looking pit, a perfectly dug-out square. 2 or 3 people could probably move around freely in this space. It was almost right under the main catwalk higher up. This is your carré, D32. Carré? D32? Carré means square. Everything is separated into the grid system. Starting from the entrance of the cave, the uppermost left to right it goes A, B, A1, B1 and so forth. You learned what? You learned what? Oh dear. That's just gobbledygook. Oh no, Leaky, no! Pants in your pants. I like my way better. No weird spelling things and it's right and it's so silly it's stuck. I mean, I would not be able to remember that. I mean, I do know some sort of I mean, I've heard that before, Leaky. It's not, you know, but it's just like, no, hands in your pants. Yeah, I mean, I've learnt, like, whatever they're called to remember things with. Like, Pam's red motor van is how I remember the 13 etroverbs. Except that I don't remember the 13 etroverbs. I remember the first letter of the 13 etroverbs. And usually about 10 of the 13. But yeah. Some stuff sticks, some stuff partially sticks, and some stuff doesn't. Except that, yeah, I can probably, like, quote lots of lines in lots of films and remember the plot of stuff. Never eat shredded wheat. Yeah. Okay. Leo the Lion says grr. Hi, Jessie. What is that one a memory thing for? I have never heard that one before. But yes, never eat shredded wheat is the only way I remember the compass. It's chemistry. Oxidation and reduction. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, come on, we're talking... When did I last do chemistry? RDR Daventramp. I mean, Pam's red motor van, you cross out the O's, and then there's the etroverb. So I guess that works with your one as well, but RDR Daventramp wouldn't have stuck in my head. Pam's red motor van does. Not going to try and recite the 13 etroverbs. We don't need a grammar lesson. But yeah, there's so many weird things you sort of learnt to remember things at school. But yeah, your initial elements one is just, huh? Yeah. Okay, uppermost left to right it goes A1, B1 and so forth. That makes sense. It explains all the lines dangling from the ceiling too. They're for measuring. Correct. Shall we take a closer look? The photographs for this row should be done already. I'll be right back. You can go ahead and set your Eismans down. Good. I remember the every good boy part. GPTF. The notes on the treble clef. The lines on the treble clef. Yes. But I learnt it. It was every good boy something else. Yeah, I remember that. Vaguely from musical theory. But again, 25 years ago. Oh, you've been trying to rebuild Discords, Jesse. That sucks. I hate it. Instead of transferring membership, like ownership to someone, they just go, well, I'll just delete everything because I'm going. So that's a bit sucky. But yes, I definitely remember like every good boy, but I can't remember why I needed that. But yeah. I remember middle C. But then it was different for the bass clef, wasn't it? Not that I often played in bass because I played the flute. But yes. Oh. I believe in you, Jesse. You can do the thing. Well, we are being an archaeologist and didn't get the joke in the title that C14-Dating was carbon dating, which Ulkesh pointed out and didn't know we weren't joking that we didn't know what it was. Because apparently he learned that at school. I did not learn that at school. So Ulkesh is just a clever boy. But yes, it seems to be, so far, it's like the ones where you pick the things that you do, and it gives you stats. But it did mention mini-games, so we're hoping it's a combination of Vera Blanc plus, like, Nicole. Hopefully without the stalker murderer, but yes. C14, you stole my battleship! Oh god. Oh, and congratulations on getting your Jake jump in 3 games. I haven't got any games that I've played that would give me that many points. I think the most I can do is 7. Or I think my oldest game is Sonic the Hedgehog, which I refuse to try again. So yeah. I mean, I have cleaned up a lot of my older games in the past. So I have fewer that are then. I don't know, the first one on Xbox Live Arcade. I am very bad at Sonic. I don't know what year. I played it in like 2012 or 2015 or something. What happened was that there was a job opening at Sony for like a web dev person. I was like, oh, I should play a Sony game on... Oh, no, not 3D Sonic. I should play a Sony game on my Xbox. So I played Sonic the Hedgehog. There was logic in the sentence, you know. But yeah, it's the original Sonic with Green Hill Zone and everything. I'm just really bad at Sonic. So I think I've got like 3 achievements in it. And have never been back to it. I can't wrap my head around just go. Like, going fast is the point. I can never wrap my head around that one. But yes. Are we still talking about the one I've played or the one you were talking about, which is the one I've not played? Because I've only ever played one Sonic, except for the levels in Lego Dimensions. But anyway. Welcome, Jesse. I hope you have luck with the Discord, and thanks for coming and hanging out with us. I'm going to continue with the story, because I want a mini-game, damn it! She retreated while I placed the bucket next to the shorter ladder. I descended, then grabbed the tools before I hopped off the last step. Oh, okay. Yeah, I have 2 modes. I have slow and cautious, or I have ram the finger down on the accelerator and just go for it, which is why I'm bad at racing games as well. The layer I'd be working on was mostly dirt, with the odd large rock sticking out here or there. It'd be easy to dig. By the time Sherry returned, I already had my knee pads out and the piece of paper next to me. Here we are, a picture of your square. She handed it to me. I could tell it was printed off in the highest resolution possible, fully inked and glossy. What do we use this photograph for? First things first, we distinguish each layer and outline it on the photograph. Once Augustine and myself checks it over, you can go ahead and start excavating. This picture is an irreplaceable reference and you'll find yourself relying on it often. Please don't lose it or get it tarnished. Sadly, Augustine is short-staffed at the moment. I'll be helping the other students since most are new to this too. Is there anything you'd like to go over? Okay, excavation. I mean, I remember playing Sonic back when I was a kid at a Novotel in Switzerland on a SNES. Or when I say playing it, I mean watching other people play it and thinking, that looks really cool. Trying it myself and dying. And yeah, I was going for the nostalgia when I picked it up again, and I've regretted it ever since. I got 1 achievement on my own. I made my boyfriend get 2 more for me, and then I was like, right, that's it. Or did I make Patrick get 1 more for me? I don't remember. Anyway, either which way, I highly doubt I'll ever go back to it. But that's my oldest game, I believe. So I'll probably just chip away at achievements with 1 point and maybe have a look at the weekend and see if there's anything older I can get. I think I've got 1 achievement left in a few games that might earn me some points, but considering, you know, I only started gaming in 2010 on Xbox, I'm not going to have anything that's worth 15 points. I've always heard about horizontal digging, but vertical? It was Augustine's idea. Stratigraphy. No, there's an O in it. Stratigraphy. I know I have a 7. The study of rock layers is extremely important, and this excavation method ensures each layer is examined in great detail. It's also easier to compare the strata when you can view it as a whole. If you want to know about the cave in general or its stratigraphical approaches, you can ask Henrik when he arrives. He's the resident geologist and Augustine's nephew. What is this? I quickly glanced at the first word at the top. Fiche. Thing exactly. Fiche means file, I believe. I know we've gone over how it's used to record finds, but I flipped it over, seeing a coordinate grid with a 0 in the lower left corner and ending in 100 for both X and Y axis. It looks complicated. Ah, that. A little bit of math will come into play. You'll be measuring where you find the remains using both X and Y, along with the altitude Z. X runs parallel to the entrance, while Y goes from front to back. Every section is divided into 100 by 100 square centimetres. Ah, yes, forgot they'll be using the metric system. My mind's going to have fun adjusting to it. The grid helps you and record what you find under this list labelled Nature. Each fiche or document has its own number already written, along with the year. You'll fill out the carré number, the layer name, and today's date. Oh, and write down the photo's number on it so there's no mix-ups. Did you get all that? It's a lot to take in, but I think I grasped it. It's easier once you actually start, and I'll be there to help. Remember, 1 fiche per layer. She lives in California. But she may be Spanish? I mean, her surname sounds Spanish, but she's from California. So, I mean, I don't mind mangling a French accent. I'm not going to attempt a Spanish one. So what do I do once I find a Neanderthal tooth? First, don't pluck it out like some amateur archaeologist. You'll lose the context. Measure it before you remove it, number it, then carefully wrap it in tinfoil. Oh, you were thinking about the metric system. Gotcha. Yeah, no, American. There'll be a plastic bag you can use to store all of the findings. How do you number the findings? Just by the order you find it in. 1, 2, or 3. Jot it down on a piece of paper and stick it in the tinfoil as well so it won't get lost. When you finish excavating the entire layer, seal everything found into a plastic bag along with the completed fiche. Believe me, you'll feel relieved to finally finish a layer. When I excavate vertically, I just focus on one layer at a time, right? That's the ideal approach. However, layers aren't perfect straight lines, like in textbook diagrams. They widen and narrow, slant or disappear completely. If you come to a situation where you have to dig through more than one layer, keep separate fiches and buckets. Never mix the contents. Because once you fill up a bucket, you'll be wet screening the material. Anything you overlooked the first time, such as a bone, will then be deposited in a cup marked with that layer name. What happens if you find something extremely important, like an entire Neanderthal skull? I admit the image of suddenly pulling a complete skull out of the screening area was rather comical. And you better hope Augustine does not see it. You never want to find flint or burnt bone in your tannissage, which is French for screening. Keep a careful eye out, and if you find something you're unsure of, ask me or a fellow archaeologist. Okay, think I got it. I'm good, Cherie. Wonderful. I'll give you some time to get familiar with your square. If you're struggling, remember you can adjust the heat lamps. Also, the photograph's contrasts have been altered to help distinguish the sedimentary layers easily. I'll be back shortly. I glanced down at the photograph before comparing it to the vertical wall in front of me. No matter how closely I looked, everything was brown, 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 and more brown. I'm supposed to tell the difference of this brown layer from that brown layer. Not deterred, I picked up a pencil and began marking the more distinct sediments. Eventually it became less solid brown, and I could see reds and faint yellows within the soil. I was so focused that I barely registered that I was not alone anymore. A tall student stood by the square next to mine, already engaged in identifying the sediments. I paid him no heed until I became stumped on whether I was looking at one layer or two. Quietly peering at his profile, he seemed rather familiar with the system. I guess it wouldn't hurt to ask him, or at least try and communicate. Can I get your opinion on something? Hello? Bonjour? Still no reaction. I reached out and gave him a gentle tap on the shoulder. Whoa! The touch jolted him so abruptly that I retracted my hand. He whirled around and then glared at me. Oui? Avez-vous besoin de quelque chose? Yes. Do you need something? Sorry, I don't speak French. Non parle, non... Oh, anglais. He placed his photograph on top of his square. Did you need something? Yeah, actually, I'm trying to figure out the layers, and I can't tell if this is one. I gently traced the soil and then pretended to pinch the air to give an idea of width. Or two. It seems reddish at the top. He grabbed his trowel, giving the vibe of a serious and no-nonsense person. Once I shuffled out of the way, he examined the area I had indicated. Two. This stratum is more red, as you said, but gradually disappears around here. He etched a small line to mark the ending. I blinked as I recognized the differences, then nodded gratefully. Thanks so much. I mean, I sort of figured, but I wasn't sure either. It's nice to get a second opinion. I gave him a cheerful smile, but he remained impassive. He even seemed baffled when I reached out to initiate a proper handshake. Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm the only foreign student here, if it wasn't obvious already with my language skills. Reluctantly, he switched the trowel to his left hand, and we gave a solid shake before letting go. Kyler. And that was it. With nothing else to work from his introduction, I decided to bring up his skills. I'm guessing you're aspiring to be an archaeologist. You appear to know what you're doing. He returned to his side of the square and knelt down, grabbing his photograph. Yes, this is my first time here, so I am acquainted with the subject. And you? Especially since you are not from around here? Well, I'm pretty serious about it. Of course, I did come all the way from California to experience this firsthand. I love the idea of working on such an old archaeological site. I am surprised they assigned me to excavate a 125,000 layer. I looked upward. It did seem most students got the upper strata to work with instead. They tend to do that for the students who are interested in the subject. I'll do my best then. Can't waste this opportunity. Most students that excavate here picked it as an elective and aren't that invested in archaeology at all. It's nice to see there are fellow keen students coming. Since we're excavating next to each other, that makes us square mates. Or would that be carry mates? Either way, I look forward to walking alongside with you. He looks confused, but simply gave a mechanical nod. He did muster up a small smile, though. So how's everyone doing today? I realise it's an hour into the stream and I hadn't asked that before, but I should be polite and see how everyone's doing. Haven't got a mini game yet. Kind of annoyed. It's fine. Hopefully we'll get an archaeological mini game. I had cherry tea in my cup earlier, so my cup now smells of cherry. But it doesn't taste like it, so it's confusing. Did muster up a small thing. Right. Likewise. Even his last words felt artificial, and I lost him to his little world of microstratigraphy. Ah! Yes, this is always my pain, Jessie, because I want to play a game and I'm like, oh, this would be a good stream game, and then it's like, and then I can only play it on stream, and then, yeah, I either have to put in extra streams or split the game up, and then it's really hard. Oh no! But hey, you know, you got the furniture moved, Leaky, that's good. That is good. Excuse me. Got the hiccups. I guess he values his concentration. I mentally reminded myself to bring my earbuds for next time. I had a feeling we wouldn't be making much small talk outside of excavations. The rest of the day was pretty uneventful. It was mostly a long wait for my photograph to be approved by Cherie, and then I got hit by jet lag. Shiny hunting! Nice. Despite my worries, Cherie said she would not deduct marks if I napped until dinner, although she did scold me for forgetting my journal. Oh yeah, 2 completely different games there. I scanned the tables and manoeuvred to where Cherie sat. I scooted to a spot on the bench and silently started on my meal. After a few bites, I poked at the pasta dejectedly and sighed. No, I really wish Paige was here. We used to do so many things together too. I glanced up hopefully at Cherie. I felt bad, but she was the only oasis in this familiar place, and I clung to it. I mean, it looks really cool. I'm just sort of put off by the length of time to 100% it, but I shouldn't be really. But it's just, I have so many games. I will get around to it eventually, but so many games. I'm not really trying to add to my backlog right now. Not only that, aside from Kyla, none of the other students greeted me or even tried to converse with me. I guess it was obvious I didn't attend the same university. Will I fit in? The question was more to myself, but Cherie overheard. Worried? The students here can be reserved, but I'm sure there'll be a few brave ones who would like to practice their English with you. They're probably too focused from the lectures and tasks right now. True, I'm sure once we're all used to the routine here, I'll have more chances to mingle. I ate with gusto, feeling confident now. When I finished, Cherie glanced at my empty plate. Here, I'll take that for you. Try to get some rest. Her concern cheered me up, and I chided myself for feeling anxious when I had barely arrived. I get it. I retreated to my tent. As I settled down contemplating about tomorrow, a musical tone disrupted the quiet night. It was quickly silenced, but I knew the catchy introduction theme to Ishtara anywhere. I grabbed my Forus axe. No, I didn't leave my system on or anything. Was someone else playing? I might as well play some Ishtara. A little grinding would do me some good. I booted up the game, and the first notes of the theme song blared loudly. I had forgotten my earbuds weren't hooked up to the handheld. I slid the volume down, hoping it didn't startle anyone. The low spirits I felt earlier totally melted away to the warm colours of the game. Lurk away. Dawn of the 3rd day. I'm going to... apparently hit the wrong key. wanted to save. Don't know what that did. Right, I am just going to take a quick break to top up my tea and close the door in the hope that the fly went out because it's getting cold. So I will be back in a few minutes. For now, enjoy the void. Okay, have a good walk, Milo. Still not had a minigame yet. During a pleasant jog early in the morning, since I don't know much about Korean, I stuck to the familiar path between the train station and the museum. When I returned, I saw people mingling in the open canopy. That meant there was enough time to eat breakfast before the trek to the cave. I swung a leg over the bench and settled into my seat. After pouring myself some apple juice, I grabbed an orange and began peeling it. Okay. I'm feeling that all of these are going to be French, but I'm very tempted to make one Scottish. Just so I can do a Scottish accent. This is probably Heinrich, who is the nephew of the Armand, the archaeologist, but everyone can't have a fake French accent, so he's going to be Scottish, because why not? Did you have a nice jog? Startled by the unfamiliar accent, I glanced upwards, greeted by a friendly face. I did. It was a short one though, since I don't want to risk getting lost just yet. I don't know the area well enough. The roads can be pretty windy too. You think you're heading east and somehow end up going north? Oh yeah, I noticed the streets aren't all clearly marked. The names are mostly on buildings. Speaking of names, I'm Melissa. Pleased to meet you. I extended an arm and he accepted my handshake. Ah, no, he's Deandre. Deandre, enchanté. Wait, you're from around here? C'est ça? It's just... Your accent sounds different in English. Your accent isn't French when you speak in English. Did you learn it from somewhere? Oh, so I can sound slightly Scottish and just pretend it's New Zealand. There we go. I studied abroad in New Zealand for a few years and picked up their manner of speech. That makes sense. Well, it sounds lovely. It's a charming accent. Because I don't want to try and do like an Australian, New Zealand accent. The only thing I can say is like Srika Eureka. So yeah. Which is that the face palm? Give me a break, Alkesh. You know I like putting in my Scottish accents. Seriously? Sweet ass? I was concerned I'd be hard to understand, considering it's not my first language. Glad that's not the case. Stop face-palming me, everyone! Your soul can stop the stream. I'm grateful you took the chance. For a while it seemed no one wanted to talk to me. I worried if I was somehow unapproachable. Not at all. Many people here are shy in the beginning, but they warm up quickly. We were actually intimidated by your presence at first. Huh? Me? We all thought you were some high school prodigy archaeologist, since you had obviously flown in from another country. Huh? Me? A prodigy? Oh no, I'm just a regular university student working on an anthropology major. I don't look like a high schooler. First year? No, second year. Well, I guess technically third. You? Fourth. I've sort of fallen behind on electives, so a summer one seems the easiest. We noticed a few students getting up and bringing their dishes to the outdoor wash area. Deandre quickly reached into his back pocket, then pulled out a phone. He glanced at the display. Speaking of which, if we'd like to pass, we should start heading out soon. Cave or lab? Right now I'm on dishwasher duty, but I'll be working in the lab afterwards. I'm still getting around to approving people's photographs, including mine. Again, thanks for talking to me. I appreciate it. That's no problem. I know what it's like to be in a new country and away from your folks. Once we finished breakfast, we stood up at the same time. We momentarily gazed at each other in surprise. He was much taller than I expected, near Kyla's height. Now that I think of it, if not all of the students here were easily a few inches taller than me or more. Deandre hammered a fist into his flat palm excitedly. Ha! Oh, that was the other reason why we thought you were a high school student. Hey, I'm only slightly below average height at home. Deandre grinned in amusement. When we left the canopy, I spotted a middle-aged woman frantically asking students something in French. What's going on? Helena, the receptionist here, is looking for volunteers, but it hasn't been easy. I offered to cook all week, but it's not a one-person job. I have a partner for today, but any past that. Sherry did encourage me to participate, more like I would be marked on my helpfulness outside of archaeology too. I can volunteer for tomorrow. Would you really? Sweet ass, me. Mel, even? He said it again. Now I'm curious. Sweet ass what? Oh, is there Kiwi slang for awesome, fine or cool? Anything positive? Ah, I see. Then could you let Helena know that I'll sign up for tomorrow? Sure can do. Thanks. I'm glad my photograph got approved. Now I can finally start digging. So where do I start? From the top? Right, you start at the top and work your way back 25 centimetres. Then you proceed downwards until you finish the layer. Some people prefer digging back a few centimetres then work their way down. Either way, as long as you're making progress. For now, we have to remove the couche de merde. The couche de merde? I mean, that's something shit. I'm assuming it's like the top layer, but yeah. Or like the mud. Using her trowel, she etched a line near the top of the square. The dirt at the top was hard and compact with footprints all over it. All of this is out of context now. People have trampled on it and it's been exposed to the air for so long that it's just better to remove it at all. Couche de merde? Wait, it sounds similar to mierda, therefore... Exactly, it's a layer of crap, to phrase it mildly. Just dig back 25 centimetres and a few down. When it comes to this layer, it'll make working here much easier. You'll still need a document for this, but you don't have to worry about the details. At least this will give me a chance to sharpen my excavating skills. I discreetly glanced in Kyler's direction. He must have been super diligent since he had already stripped his layer away. Hesitantly, I took the bigger trowel and started scraping. Amazed by the resistance, I had to apply more force to make a dent. Let me give you some tips. Okay. Not X. I want to pause. I think I accidentally... Right, there we go. Now, before we dig, we should first remove the top layer. It's been trodden on, and now its soil is mixed and distributed. You can see how dark and compacted it is compared to the lighter, pristine sediment beneath it. Not only that, it's hard to dig through and all clumpy. Already testing it out? Someone's eager. Remember, you only need to remove a few centimetres worth. Try it out. Oh! Just like this? Perfect, a clean line. Make sure you don't remove too much or you might be digging into the sediments you'll be recording. It's Picross! I know, right? Is there a way to prevent that? I mean, I can easily distinguish these two layers, but I'm sure it won't be always that obvious. You can use the tip of your trowel to etch into the sediment. It helps to separate the stratigraphy, so you don't have to constantly check to make sure you haven't dug in a new layer. I'll try it here as a practice run. The etch tool on the left is a useful option. It marks the cells that do not need to be chiselled with an X. Try etching the third row. Great. See how there's a 0 beside this row? That means no cells need to be chiselled. You can leave it as it is. Cool. I know how to play Picross. It looks like the top layer ends here. I agree. Now you know how much left you need to clear away. Here I go. Now I'll finish chiselling the second row. Woo! I made a chocolate bar. That's perfect. The couche de merde has now been stripped away, revealing the pristine sediments underneath. Note how the top columns are all marked with a 2. This means that each column had 2 cells that need to be filled in. It's not as fun as the guessing the words, but it's still something. Use check. It will tell you... There we go. Use check to move on. Check. I unlocked a new journal entry. Couche de merde. Shit layer. It looks like I've completed everything. Now I feel like a real archaeologist. That's wonderful. I'll be helping the other students out, but if you're stuck, don't hesitate to ask for my assistance. Okay. Careful. If your stress levels are too high, you won't get many hints. Does that make sense so far? I think so. Here, I'll show you a little more. Now that the couche de merde is gone, I can finally start digging, right? You sound eager, but your hand is shaking. Are you feeling okay? Good, just a little nervous, since this is a 120,000-year-old square. I'm worried about I might actually throw something of extreme value away. As long as you stay aware and don't dig through the sediments carelessly. We use microstratigraphic approaches which require high spatial control. Why don't you point out the sediments? Dig a little into this one. The separation is unmistakable. Everything still looks brown to me, but here I go. Okay. I know how to play Picross. There, how does it look? I accidentally got into the journal. Oops. Perfect. The first sediment is the 2AL layer. This is an alluvial deposition, so it'll be silty and easier to work through. Not many pebbles or grainy textures here. Okay. Okay, right. Stratigraphy! I think I figured out where all the sediments are, Sherry. Agreed. Do you still have your photograph? You can fix up some of the pencil lines you put down before. Usually you need to have your photograph approved by one of the staff members here, but since we're short-handed, I'll be overseeing the photograph submissions as well. I agree with the stratigraphy markdown. You can outline the pencil with a permanent marker and start digging from the top once you're done. Thanks, Sherry. While you work on that, I have a quick question. Did you bring your journal? I didn't forget this time. Wonderful. Have you also talked to Helena already? She's the receptionist here and oversees the volunteers for cooking and cleaning duties. Uh-huh. As you recall, I expect you to volunteer since it'll be for marks too. Already got that covered. I volunteered myself for tomorrow. I'm glad to hear that. I was worried since she doesn't speak English and you didn't ask me for help. It's wonderful to see you getting involved from the very beginning. I'd like to do my share, marks or not. I'll let you finish your first task. I'll mostly be helping other students here. Give a holler if you have any inquiries. I personally want you to get used to digging in the cave first before you transfer to the lab. Next week you can decide on which one you'd like to focus on. Generally, students spend 1 week in the cave, 1 week in the lab, then alternate. However, I think flexibility is very important, so I'll let you plan your days. Sounds good. We'll probably try and do a lab one so we can see what other games there are on stream. Though, I'm probably not going to go for too much longer, maybe minimum of another half an hour. Maybe slightly longer, we'll see. Because I'm kind of tired and I want to get an early night. And we can raid someone. Yes. With the conversation finished, Sherry climbed the ladder, leaving me with a remote Kyla. Geez, he digs so fast. He does have experience though, but I wonder if I can even rely on him. So much for the square mate thing. Pulling my earbuds out of my pocket, I inserted them and turned on my music. Now let's tackle this mucky layer. Oh, I didn't know about a puzzle. Why do we have stress? We shouldn't have stress. Heavy, heavy, heavy. Way too heavy. Why did I think it was a good idea to fill it to the top? Not only that, I had to climb 2 ladders, gripping the bucket handle with both hands, and managed to trudge forward to the wet screening area. Luckily, one space was free. I set down the bucket and then placed a screen over the container suspended above the tub of water. I tried hoisting the bucket, only to find I was too short for this task. I kicked futilely at a cement block until I realised it was faster to grab it and drag it next to the tub. Stepping on the block, I unceremoniously dumped half of the bucket's contents, trying not to overdo it. Once I had my label cup next to me, I grabbed a hose and drenched the compacted soil, using my free hand to break up the globs. While I sifted through the items, I glanced at the person across from me. I tentatively poked through the wet screen, unable to determine if any of the objects were rubbish or worth dropping in the cup. His arms obscured his hoodie design, although it seemed vaguely familiar to me. I watched him and he happened to look up, meeting my eyes. Bonjour. Sorry, I can't speak French. I'm not even sure if you can understand me. I didn't mean to blurt that out, but he averted his eyes briefly. For a moment I thought he didn't understand English and didn't know how to respond. Hello. You speak English? Yes, I think I'm pretty fluent with it. Sweet. It's always nice to know I can talk to more people here. I'm not confident with my French at all, let alone Spanish. I chuckled while I waited for a reply. Avery meekly nodded, then glanced down at the wet screening. Total opposite of Deandra. Guess he's not big on conversation. Music is great, but I spent all morning beside super sociable Kyla. Small talk, darn it. I'm going to ask if he's new. First time here as well? Yes, I don't know much about archaeology, so this is all new to me. It's a lot to take in. My head is spinning for all the info dumped on me in the past few days. Hopefully all my worries will pass on whether I can do this or not, and I can enjoy the experience. Are you nervous too? A bit. For someone being thoughtful on how to answer, it was barely a complete sentence. Another angle. What else could I say? I love your hoodie. It's going to be a general statement, but then I got a clearer look at what he was wearing. Wait, no way! Some of the design was still hidden by his arms, but I'd recognise that logo anyway. Oh my gosh, I love your Chronicles of Zelda hoodie! It's based on 20 Masks, right? Jesse! It's a play on Zelda! It's like totally you, without the hat. You've played them before? It was practically my childhood. I loved the series and it was my favourite one. Really? Mine too. I've always appreciated the darker direction the series took with it. Yeah, I love the mysterious spooky vibe they had going on. My favourite part was learning about the world through the side quests. I'm guessing you completed the Lover's Quest. What did you think of that one? Loved it. It was really sad and I felt guilty I couldn't reunite them every time. Guessing Majora's Mask. I think I shed more tears over that than the actual ending. The NPC schedules were super detailed. I'd end up following each character. Nerd. What a nerd. I agree. The main town felt livelier for it, and I liked how your choices could influence the characters too. I'm Shoji. He eagerly extended an arm, and I flinched from the unanticipated gesture. Seeing my startled reaction, he hastily withdrew his hand and averted his eyes. Sorry. No worries, I just didn't expect it. Here! I initiated the handshake this time, and realised how gritty and wet our hands were. He seemed to be aware of it too, and we exchanged an apologetic look, followed by a laugh. My bad, I should have wiped my hand first. The best of handshakes there. It's fine. The burst of zeal he displayed when we gushed over games had quickly mellowed out. We released each other's hands, and he silently returned to his wet screening. I did the same. Sometimes I'd glance up and sense that he had more to say, but did not articulate them. I'd already forced enough conversation out of him for now. Excuse me. When he was done, Shoji tipped over the screen, dumping out all of the rubble which disappeared into the water below. After Shoji picked up his empty bucket, he lingered by the catwalk for a moment before returning to me. I'll see you around. He trailed off, and then it hit me that I hadn't even said my name yet. Oh, it's Melissa. Right, pleased to meet you, Melissa. Quite. See you later, Shoji. He gave me a grateful nod before disappearing into the cave. I might as well finish up too. Once I had finished preparing the plates and cutlery, I returned to the kitchen. Deandra stirred stew in a giant pot resting over a single burner stove. I quickly learned that lunch always consisted of sandwich ingredients along with a serving of soup. Finished setting up the tables. Thanks, Mel. I'm still grateful that you volunteered and all. I'm glad to be of help. He tapped the top of the pot with a stirring spoon to get the liquid off. Do you cook often? You seem rather skilled. I don't know if stirring soup is considered a skill. At least you seem to know what you're doing. I've been cooking seriously since first year of university, maybe. I mean, before I could do the basic prep or flow frozen meals in a microwave. Once I moved to New Zealand, I sort of picked up cooking while living in the dorms. Eating out is pretty expensive and I needed to keep a strict diet. Strict diet? I'm guessing you work out or participate in sports? You ain't wrong. Training and weightlifting are part of my regime. I'm a rugby player. Oh, that's neat. What position do you usually play? I'm a lock. I'm guessing you don't know much about union rugby? Not really. Sorry, I know it's similar to football, American football, without the padding. Basically the locks provide the power on heights, break through defences, jump high in lineouts, and That sounds like every position. I lost you again, didn't I? A line out? What's a line out? Well, let's start with a lock. Anyway, locks have to get the ball at whatever cost. Bye, Scruff! Don't kill anyone. Talk to you later. He extended his arms, pretending to reach for me, and made a primitive grunt. Raw, aggressive, must get possession of ball. Well, not as aggressive as flankers, you never want to be tackled by those. I giggled, deciding not to ask what a flanker was either, and gently shifted the topic. Where did you learn how to play rugby? Well, I grew up always playing it. I even joined a local rugby club, but moved to New Zealand to hone my skills even further. Out of all the countries in the world, why New Zealand? If I recall, you went there to study, right? How is that related to rugby? I mean, New Zealand's one of the best places. Hi, Dan, because this guy plays rugby. So he's giving us a rugby lesson. I went there because one of the universities in Wellington offered a programme that combined its rugby culture with education. He grinned like a child reminiscing about their Christmas presents. I got to enrol there for a few trimesters along with free tickets to elite games. And a gym membership to where the top-notch rugby players trained. Not only that, I got to participate in their practice sessions. I learned lots down there, it was pretty sweet as. I was expensive though, my visa expired. I guess it was inevitable though. And now I'm finishing up my degree in Liège. What degree are you working on? English? That sounds all pretty heavy duty. How do you balance both rugby and your English degree? You're not just focusing on your rugby career? As much as I love rugby, too much can happen on the field. One traumatic or hard-hitting injury and your career's over. Even with the best physio, you might not play as well as you did before. I figured if something were to happen, I could always teach English as a foreign language to a fella. The pot bubbled and Deandra softly cursed. He grabbed the spoon and stirred again to prevent the ingredients from settling on the bottom. Phew, nearly forgot about this. Good time does fly when you're having a conversation. What's the time? I checked my phone's display. Time for the students to eat. I'll get the cold cuts and drinks out now. Thanks, the soup looks about ready. I turned off the burner and we were focused on organising lunch. I glanced at Deandra as he happily hollered to the students coming down the stairs from the forest trail. Sounds like he figured things out. Now I gotta focus on what I'd like to do. Did I misinterpret the stress thing? Or is it you get stress if you fail? I think you get stress if you fail at an activity then. I thought it reduced it. My bad. Anyway, it's starting to sound rowdy over there. I could even hear the hollering and cheering over the video game music. A large silhouette appeared near my tent and yanked out my earbuds. Mel, are you around? Over here, I'm in the yellow tent. He gave the tent's flap a knock, rattling the fabric. I zipped it open and poked my head out. Something up? I thought you'd rather socialise than hole yourself up in your tent. Want to break some language barriers? He held out a raspberry-flavoured beer bottle and swayed it before me. Although by the end we'll all be incoherent anyway. Ah yes, drinking, a universal pastime. Should I join in? Party responsibly. I'll join in. Are there any non-alcoholic drinks available? Deandra held the bottle close as he tried to recall. There's orange juice and cola, I think. If there's Diet Cola, that'd be great. Diet? Got it? I'll meet you by the campfire. I'll take it easy tonight. I'm sure it'll be fun. I wish I had a beer. After all, I could use the extra courage. I glanced at the crowds and took a tiny sip of my drink. Deandra had wandered off somewhere, being the social butterfly he was, and I felt like I'd lost my connecting link to everyone. Usually I socialise just fine, even in a room full of strangers, but the language barrier isolated me. Maybe you should have taken some time to learn some French. I did, before I went to France. I mean, it was still hard. I understand the hard. Honestly, I really do. But not even attempting to speak French, even if it's terrible. Is this how a wallflower feels? I exhaled wearily, wondering if I should retire for the night. When I looked up, I noticed a girl standing by herself. She glanced around before fiddling with her nails. Was she waiting for someone or felt left out too? She's cute. It can't hurt to say hi, right? I approached her from the side and stood a little ways from her. When we made eye contact, I gave a friendly wave and she smiled back. Hello. Je ne parle pas français. Et toi? She grinned and pointed at herself, and the mistake dawned on me. I messed up already. I combed my fingers through my hair and shook my head dramatically. As embarrassing as it was easier to laugh off, and the girl giggled. Je parle français un peu. I speak English very little. I speak English well. I speak French very little. I speak English well. I can see. After exchanging a laugh, I offered my hand and she accepted warmly. I'm Melissa. Joan. You're from the America? Yes, I'm from the States. I hope you like Belgium. Very small country, not like States. I like it a lot. It's beautiful. I'm glad. Our chat was short, if slightly clumsy due to the language barrier, but Joan was patient and we enjoyed the interactions. She perked up when she heard someone calling for her and she gave me a little nod before excusing herself. That wasn't so bad. I really need to work on my French though. I should get some sleep. I made it to the tent area when I heard a loud smack, followed by gasps and roaring laughter. It was coming from the other side of the building and I muffled a yawn. Sounds like they're having fun, but I don't want to be too tired to dig tomorrow. I sat at the table munching on a piece of toast. It was pretty packed as usual. I was located near the end where the livelier conversations took place in the middle. Morning. Slept well, I hope? I did, surprisingly. You guys were pretty loud. I think most of us retired around 1 AM, though Radio 1's partied until 4. They will have a hard time focusing on the cave today. I can imagine. Oh, speaking of cave, I finally be working in the cave. Ace, were you waiting on your photograph? Yeah, some squares had to have their pictures retaken for better resolution. I may or may not work in the lab longer though. Mr. Dupont will be hurrying to approve other students' pictures too. You could always ask Cherie. I think she has some authority here too. Cherie? Cherie Keller, my professor. Of course, Americans address teachers by their first name. Is it different here? Really different, in fact. I think some students mistook Cherie for your grandma. A professor overseeing their students in an elective. Unheard of. No one calls their teachers by first name, and it's always strictly formal if you want to talk to your professor. That's by appointment only. I wonder how I'd do in an environment like that. That's one thing I missed about New Zealand. I wasn't as rigid, and I'd gotten so used to it, I practically had reverse culture shock coming back. There's a lot of things I missed in New Zealand. Planning to return there one day. You bet. Eventually I started saving up recently. Travel is darn expensive. He laughed at my nod of agreement. Plane tickets here alone had cleaned out my savings. Everything else was from begging my parents to fund me for this trip. Checking the time, I chewed the last of my toast and gulped down the water. I'll see you at the cave then. Clocked him in the head with a frisbee. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you sure you'll be fine alone? Yeah, my parents got all concerned when they learned I don't have a travelling partner. I was strongly advised not to go off on my own since it's my first time being this far from home. Although I tried to be nonchalant about it, my sulkiness still surfaced. It's probably for the best, however I'm sure you'll make friends and be able to venture out more. If you'd like, I can ask some of the students to see if they're interested in hosting you on the weekends. Me? I'd hate to impose. I know you're reluctant, but it'd be nice to spend time with students outside the dig site. True, and see more of Belgium too. It's a shame Paige couldn't make it. Where are you staying anyway? Oh, to colleagues. I've known him and his husband for years. I would bring you along, but it's a small house and, She trailed off, but I nodded understandingly. I did not want to impose on her catch-up time with friends. Will the museum be totally locked up once Augustine leaves? Everything's safe for the back entrance so you can access it. You can lock it from the inside at night. I imagine you'll be sleeping on the second floor? Yes. Augustine already set up an air mattress for me, and I've moved some of my belongings. I think we've gone over everything then. There's leftovers in the fridge and the Wi-Fi will remain on. I heard the laboratory door opening and closing, and Augustine flashed me a warm smile. All of the other students had left home for the weekend, and it was just us three, soon to be one now that they were ready to depart. Melissa, I assume Cherie has gone over everything? Yes. Wonderful. Or is this the first time in many years someone had remained here alone? It was an ominous yet playful smirk. I could not help but be wary. Why? They are scared of the wrath of Neanderthal whose bones we found? Oh, I think I'll survive those 48 hours, Augustine. What a brave girl. I hear it gets very airy at night. We exchanged goodbyes and I heard the clicking of the front door being locked. When it got very quiet, I pushed the thoughts of ghosts out of my head. I have a whole museum to myself. I bet not many people can say that. The lights are on. Is someone here? What's all this? There were multiple wooden trays laid out on the centre table. Each contained various rock samples along with paper slips under each one. I approached and peered at the trays. Calcaire, de schiste, grès. Were they studying something, or would this be part of another upcoming lecture? Get permission before handling. I should ask first before picking up museum property. Nestled against the wall was a small table. Usually it was bare, but now there was a laptop and someone seated in front of it. Excusez-moi. Oui? Comment puis-je Comment puis-je t'aider? Je ne parle pas français. Chérie student, I presume. He approached me casually and stood beside the table. Yes, I'm Melissa Flores, studying under Cherie. Pleased to meet you. He offered his left hand and I accepted it with a firm shake. Hendrik, Lukenhus, at your service. Hendrik, the geologist, Augustine's nephew. That's me. I was supposed to be here earlier, but I was caught in a landslide off work back in Germany. Thought I'd catch up on a few things before Monday. He jutted his chin towards the samples. Were you going to ask about those? Yes, I didn't want to poke around without permission. Can I? Feel free to look around if you'd like. Merci. I picked up a rock, the one labelled calcaire. This material was everywhere in the cave, limestone. I placed it down and examined one beside it, labelled shale. Where did this collection come from? From one of the cabinets? It's mine, actually. Many of the rocks are ones I dug up or personally found. I thought it'd be nice to have some examples to show the students here. Especially if they can't tell the difference between chert and shale yet. And what is the difference? He eagerly motioned me over to the tray, picked up a dark rock and offered it to me. It felt grainy in my hand. First off, shale is composed of silt and clay. It's a very soft rock. You've probably seen shale at road cuts or by the riverbanks. And this is chert. You already noticed the waxy lustre, and it's much harder than shale. I held the sample in my other hand. It also felt smoother than shale, almost like glass. This is what you need to keep out for. A lot of the stone tools were crafted out of shit. Fortunately, they tend to stand out like new when you uncover them. So, is that a bit like heated flint? Shit. Or is it just flint and shout's the French word for it? I don't know. I can tell you've given this lecture many times. I'm guessing most students here have never worked with rocks before. Yep, many are into art, computers or music. I returned the rocks to their rightful spot. What are you doing in Germany? Pretty much what I do here. Supervise excavators, examine and compile soil samples, figure out the stratigraphy. Wow! Congratulations! That's impressive. Because those older games, hard. I essentially chalk out a map of the cave to study the sediments and its history. That sounds difficult. You'd think sedimentary formations would be more straightforward. Older on the bottom, more recent on the top. You'd think? Ha! But geology is never that nice and easy. How best to describe this? Do you like cake? Of course I like cake. He chuckled at my pun. At least he appreciated the silly effort. You'll be able to follow along then. It's pretty sedimentary after all. What are the chances you've tried a Prinzregententorte? Very low. Non-existent in fact. Then Black Forest, less layers than I'd like, but you get the idea. Yes, I'm familiar with it. It'll work as long as I picture a multi-layered cake, right? Exactly. Cakes are like basic sediments, consistent layers and patterns all around. Unlike cake, stratigraphy is a complex puzzle. Henrik made multiple slices in the air with his hand, gradually lowering the elevation each time to emphasize the point. Layers are slantier due to how they were deposited, whether by alluvial means, weathering, freeze-thaw, gravity, cave-ins, the list goes on. And then, just as the sediment starts to settle, a river or a flood may come in and wash away the top, surfaces away, leaving nothing, or portions of the same layer in isolated pockets. Badgers and other burrowing animals cut through layers, disrupting sediment further, or something drastic could take place, like an earthquake creating faults and misaligned sediments. Therefore, it's up to me to figure it out. I did love studying rocks and sedimentary stuff at school, but that was like more than 25 years ago. So, vaguely remember. I hope I didn't bore you. People have always said I am married to my job. It wasn't boring at all, honest. If anything, it made me realise how much work goes into understanding the cave's history. It's definitely not easy, but I enjoy the challenge of piecing information together. Since I am here, I'll be available if you have any questions or inquiries. He finished the last sentence like a well-host routine. How long have you worked here? Me? Let me think. Nearly 4 years now. I helped my uncle during the summer and then hopped to a few other caves depending on their excavating schedules. After a glance upward, his eye widened and he slapped his forehead. Ah, I'm supposed to be in Amnor soon. I hope it didn't startle you earlier. My uncle did mention there'd be a student staying here on the weekend, but it slipped my mind. Nah, that's fine. It was nice finally meeting you, Hedrick. Likewise. I'll be sure to ask you if I have any other geology questions. So that's what I'm here for. See you on Monday. Ooh, we failed at dancing. Oh, hello. Let's do a lab on Monday. Because, honestly, I want to see what the lab puzzle's like so I can finish off. Ooh, let's volunteer. I'll do another cave one. Catch and study, that's fine. Then lab, volunteer. Cave. Oh, it reduces stress browsing the internet. So let's browse the internet there. Study. And then lab. Ooh, hydrate and stretch. Good idea. Do that in a minute. Let's play catch and then browse the internet. And at the weekend, we will explore the town, museum, and then email. Okay. And we'll save. Right. I want to see what the lab stuff works. Oh. Oh, chocolate hazelnuts, you're worth the extra insulin. When I was done, I rolled the bread up and bit the end, my mouth glued shut as I chewed while the spread smeared my cheek. Glad I was eating breakfast alone, I was being sloppy. Bonjour? Huh? Someone lightly pecked me on one cheek. The person immediately pulled back and I hastily rubbed my face while he did the same. Ah, Deirdre, I was stuffing my face. At least warn me next time before you kiss me. I could say the same. Oh no, hang on. I could say the same. What's with the kiss anyway? That's how we greet friends. Usually the cheek kissing goes a little smoother than this one. He eyed my breakfast and snorted teasily. Cute, me. Hey, I wasn't expecting everyone to arrive so soon. Did you drive? We took the train. Oh, we took the train. I only stopped every half an hour, so you either arrive early or slightly late. Before I could question the wee, Deandra tapped the side of his cheek. You still have some... You too. Still, did you dunk your face into? Did not. Your timing was just atrocious. While we were both cleaning ourselves, I noticed Kyler observing us with a deadpan expression. He frowned in disgust and disappeared around the corner with his belongings. Deandra sighed, rubbing his temples like he had an impending headache. I don't think he likes me. Something happened. Well, do you remember that Friday night? I went to bed early, so while a bunch of us started playing catch, I may or may not have nailed Kyler in the head with a ball. Was he okay? Yeah, I was fine. If upset, I tried to apologise, but I wouldn't hear of it. Now I probably thought I was shamelessly flirting with you like some full-time playboy. Oh, you aren't? Part-time. Kyler seems to be the type where first impressions are everything. I think you're right. He seemed to tolerate me once he learned I was serious about archaeology. Oh yeah? You two work in the same location? The ball incident. Volunteer to talk to Kyler? Leave it to me. My square is next to his anyway, so I'll be able to talk to Kyler anytime. Really? It's not a big deal, but let him know I apologise for that. A few other students trickled in and I finished my breakfast before there were any more mishaps. Anyway, where did you stay this weekend? I furiously chewed my oversized portion, but Deandra flashed me a patient, "I'll wait" smile. Coughing, I simply tapped the table since I couldn't talk. Here? How was it? I survived. When a car pulled in, I knew Augustine and Sherry had arrived. I waved to them as they got out, although inwardly I wanted to whine to Augustine about the whole ghost thing. After Sherry and I greeted each other, she handed my journal back. Be sure to read the comments in the journal when you have time. It'll give you an idea of how you're performing. Thank you, I will. Also, since this is your second week here, you'll now have the option to pick lab work if you'd like. Oh, right. I'll notify Hendrik. He handles the lab 101 here and can explain the procedures to you. Nice, it seems my options have opened up. There sure are a lot of stuff and tools here. I perked up as Hendrik tapped the whiteboard with his prosthetic fingers, his speech continuing in French. His lecture was occasionally interrupted with polite giggles or groans, and he would grin at their reactions. Hendrik loved to deliver puns in any language I used. Once the explanation wrapped up, people collected plastic bags, each with a sheet inside. Some barely contained any material, while others had huge bones encased in tin foil. I grabbed a decently sized one with mostly smaller items and fished out the fiche, along with a wrapped item. Is this your first time doing lab work? Yeah, Cherie's gone over the procedures with the side presentation, but it's different seeing it up close. If you'd like, I can clarify a few things. I thought it'd be easy to do a little one-on-one instead of repeating myself in both languages and taking up more time. Really? Then, I'm getting a little tired. So I just want to see if there's a puzzle with the lab work. I'm not sure this is necessarily as entertaining for everyone. Archaeology with a side bit of flirting. So I might not actually do any more streams of this. If it had been sort of archaeological mystery with some mini games, I was kind of expecting more of a Vera Blanc thing, then perhaps I would do more, but I think I'll just do the one stream on this, unless someone really wants to say it. Can you break down the lab process in its simplest form? Clean objects, document, and repeat. That's it. That was short and sweet. When you've worked with many students with varying degrees of interest in archaeology, it helps to be concise. It's my own take on the KISS principle. Keep it simple for students. There's so many tools used to clean. What's the general routine? He leaned over and pointed the plastic bowl with the sieve placed over it. Depending on how dirty the item is, uses to wash the majority of the soil off. Couldn't remember if I'd hydrated. If it's a bone, please don't let it stay submerged for too long or it'll become saturated and will end up damaging the object, especially if it's already cracked or flaking. Other times you simply need to dunk a brush into the water if you're only cleaning a small section. Be sure to dry it thoroughly using a paper towel or lint-free cloth. Whether you use that step or not, it's on to using brushes and craft sticks. I know about brushes, but craft sticks? They're great for scraping muck off without scratching the remains. I'm partial to craft sticks myself, but everyone has their own preference. If you use a brush, be gentle and don't scrub too hard. And there's toothpicks, which are useful for cleaning teeth or porous items. If the object is relatively clean to begin with and doesn't need water, you can simply brush the dirt off. Be careful though, some bones are too fragile to wash or clean. Use your judgment. There'll be a little trial and error at first, but you'll get the hang of it. Don't worry, I won't get upset if a bone falls apart. Says the geologist. What if I drop a rock? Handle those with extreme care, please. I will, I promise. I picked up the ink bottle and gave him an uncertain look. Why these? It looks like it'll be a messy process, and I've never used a nib pen before. It stays on the bone or stone better than regular ink, regardless of surface, and you'll have better control over the writing. Terrible at describing how to use one. I think if you hold it slightly lower than a regular pen and lightly pull, the ink should flow out evenly. Obviously, don't dunk the nib in the ink bottle like cookies in milk. Also, follow the number style I've written on the board. I turned my head, studying the 1 to 9 that went down in a vertical column. The 3 was flat at the top and the 7 had an extra line in the middle of it. The 1 had a little hook at the top with a foundation. So, fairly French numbering. Is it to keep everything more consistent? That, and we don't panic if a number fades, see? He approached the board and wrote a bubbly 8. He then wiped half of it, turning into 3. This is why. Same with a 7. If we lose a part of it, we won't mistake it for a 1, due to the line in the middle. It's extremely important to be able to identify its number. When you're done, jotting down the fiche number, and yeah, don't forget to coat it with a thin layer of clear nail polish to protect the ink. What about 6 and 9? What if you get them upside down? Do they have a dot on them? Or is it more of a curly and a straight? Make sure you let the ink dry first or it'll become all blurry. What happens if I mess up? I have a feeling whiteout won't help here. Ah, then this is the fun part. You can use the nib to scrape off the ink. I don't recommend using it multiple times over the same surface though. You'll end up destroying the very item we're trying to preserve. What if the object is impossible to write on due to its size? Then place it in the tray cup along with a written piece of paper that came with it. Although try your best to write in a partial line since it's possible to lose the paper over time. Please write neatly so I don't end up cursing your name next year when I get around to them. Tools. A summer peach tool. Important to clarify, there's the water, the sieve, the bowl. Other brushes, craft stick, toothpicks, cloth and paper towels. Written down and coated with nail polish, you can drop the items in the cups set up on the trays over there. He pointed to row upon row of wooden trays, each with cups superglued to the surface. Some had bigger containers for the obviously larger objects too. That way they'll dry out in the sun. I'll take care of everything when the lab work is done, so you don't have to worry about the rest. Any other tips or tricks? Other than what I've told you? Just be gentle and use your best judgment. Don't mix up the items, please, and be sure to clean the utensils when you're done. Isn't it harder to extract DNA after you wash them? Plus, we're touching with our bare hands. Even just breathing while you're digging contaminates exposed material. It's virtually impossible to avoid tainting samples unless you catch it early while excavating. We'd rather have items clean so we can identify their morphology or possible Neanderthal manipulation of those items. Like burnt bone, cuts in bone from flint, tool manufacturing. The stuff I hope avoided ending up in the wet screening process and has its content marked and identified. The context marked and identified on the document. Good. I think I've got everything. Kein Problem. I'll mostly be helping out in the lab, working alongside the other students. Hendrik, need help with anything? Could you supervise my first cleaning? Of course, I know lab work can be tough. Okay. Here we have our tools. Toothpick, brush, craft stick, cloth, and the water sieve. Remember that they're dealing with mostly fragile objects and it'll be time consuming to clean each one perfectly. Okay, I'm gonna save. The idea is to make the object recognizable. Luckily, you're cleaning a piece of shirt, so let's wash it off in the sieve. Pick tools. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 7, 9. Pretty clean. Okay. So 7 and 9. 16, so 2, 3, 4. Craft stick. We got 20. Because we did maths. We got Chet! I'm going to look up Chet. Ow. Just so. Ow! Just whop myself with my laptop. Yeah, Chet is a hard, fine-grained sedimentary rock composed of microcrystalline crystals of quartz, the mineral form of silicon dioxide. It's a quartz type rock. Interesting. Silica quartz. It occurs as nodules, flint. So it is related to flint. Got confused. Close my Google hole and then let's. So this is the mini game for that. Don't let stress get there. Done. Great. You can let it dry off before writing on it. There's a bit of luck involved. Okay. Okay. Some sturdy-looking bones start crumbling as soon as you touch them. Some are in awful condition. I'd rather see a slightly dirty object intact than a clean broken one, if that makes sense. Match the target force or get within 4 points. So don't push it if you feel that's as clean as it'll get. You got it. Oh! Gotta go help someone else. No problem. Now for the next one. Tiny tooth! Dunked a toothbrush into the water and began to scrub it. Set it on the cloth, uncapped the ink bottle and neatly dipped the nib into it. Gently, gently. Oh no. I had barely touched the tooth with the nib when the giant splotch of ink dispersed and penetrated the root. It now resembled a squished black spider. Ugh. I cleaned the nib and scraped the blotch best I could. It seemed to work, but it also scratched into the tooth. It's harder than it looks. I'm already missing the cave. Of course, this is where the real discovery would take place, where everything was catalogued and identified for future examination. It'd also be great for my lab work, so it wasn't something I could avoid entirely. Time to see if I can finish this one at least. Okay. 5 more objects to clean the lab today. Good luck. Okay. $17. How do you know what the... okay. I didn't want to select the toothpick. Okay. 8. Too much force. Great. Oh, God. Not doing very well. I didn't do a very good job today. Oh, I've got a save file. I can always go back to it. Yeah. Oops. What size of the palm of my hand with wave-like ridges on the outside? Who should I ask? Bone, so I'll show you. Shuri, I have a question. Yes? What bone is this? It looks like a tooth, but I handed it to her and she turned it over, examining it closely. Why, it's a tooth of a woolly rhinoceros, an upper molar to be exact. How can you tell? Their molars have a very characteristic shape if you look at the ridge here. It's like a W. Right, do you see this in horse teeth as well? It helps with the shearing tough plant material. Still, you identified it so fast. Once you've worked with hundreds of them, it becomes second nature. What are we looking at? Have we discovered something valuable? Shuri turned and held up the tooth. Augustine barely glanced at it. You've seen one, City, Colantodontus and Crutatus. Upper molar, you've seen them all. At least I know for sure next time. Thanks, Shuri. Shuri has become an expert in identifying animal fauna, considering she started in forensics. Forensics? Really? I know you teach it, but I didn't know that was your career too. Yes, although the aims may be different. The goal is to identify human remains in forensic anthropology. Human remains. In forensic anthropology, you mainly deal with recovering modern remains in a legal context, while archaeology is broader and spans history. Interesting. How did you get into archaeology? I was called in to assist a colleague with a sacred burial ground. We identified the remains for historical purposes, then reburied them again. Wow, I had no idea. You could say she has literal skeletons in her closet. True. Most of the skeletons in my classes are donations or being borrowed from those sites. The rest are her previous lovers. Augustine, you jest! Just my first husband. Melissa, you should resume queuing now that we've identified the tooth. Right. Okay. So, I think what I'm going to do is leave it there, because I'm kind of tired. So, unless anyone objects, I think I'm just going to call it on this one. If you want to find out more about this story, then you're just going to have to buy the game yourselves. Because, yeah, I don't think it's gripping me enough to want to continue doing multiple streams, so that solves that problem. So I'm back on Thursday with more Manifold Garden with Jessie. Tuesday, Cozy Sunday. I'll do AI Somnium Files on Sunday. Not The Walking Dead for the moment. I will go back to The Walking Dead, but Somnium Files. And then next week, Tuesday, we're doing a co-stream with Scruff for his anniversary. And then Thursday, well, it depends on whether we finish Manifold Garden tomorrow, this Thursday or not. There may be another one then. And then I think that's the weekend after I am away. Though I might be able to do a Saturday morning stream. There won't be a Sunday one, but I'll be back on Tuesday. So that's not too bad. Anyway, we will see. We'll have to play it by ear. For now, I've been Joe, otherwise known as Angel SK. Go raid ID because I want to see what the Beasts of Maravella is like, and I've not raided ID yet, so there we go. I'm going to go and raid and say hi to Timber. So thank you everyone for watching today. Thank you for the new follows and the conversation. I've been Joe, otherwise known as Angel SK, and I bid you